The details came out this week of the California Governor Gavin Newsom's dealings with China is starting to emerge finally. Whilst this is faction fighting, it's still disclosure for us, including the revelation that Newsom is quietly funneling hundreds of millions of taxpayer dollars to the Chinese regime in exchange for political favours. Oops. And because California is certifiably bankrupt and on the verge of total economic collapse, Newsom appears to have forged a backroom deal with the Shecoms that involves him handing over taxpayers' dollars in exchange for political bailouts. And these include keeping California artificially afloat, as well as Newsom in office at least until China can get troops on the ground as part of a planned nationwide takeover. Really? And as it turns out, China fully supports and is possibly even a financial backer of it. Black Lives Matter, well, of course they are. But it's not the Chinese government. I must stress that. It's got nothing to do with the Chinese government at all. And everything to do with the Black Dragons and the Rothschilds and the Black Sun, allied with various, quote, foundations, unquote. You know who they are. And Black Lives Matter and Antifa, the two most well-known domestic terrorist groups, making the rounds this week, destroying property, tearing down statues, burning entire city blocks and shooting innocent people. And the destabilization of these groups are causing is all part, they say, of this Chinese takeover plan. It's not a Chinese takeover plan. It's a Rothschild's Black Sun takeover plan. Now, Natural News in this report said it already established that China is providing full automatic weapons upgrade parts to Black Lives Matter through a smuggling operation that was interdicted by US Customs and Border Patrol. So now you know why we need the wall. And how Newsom fits into this picture is that he turned California into a port of entry for China to smuggle in weapons and other gear for the soon-to-be what is quoted as the Second Civil War that has been planned for America. And the sick part is that Newsom is laundering money backwards and forwards with the Chinese under the guise of coronavirus aid. Now, back in April, even the mainstream media was questioning what Newsom was up to when it was revealed that he had wired $500 million to an electric car company in China to supposedly purchase N95 masks for the Wuhan virus. And that decision was never voted on or approved by the legislators in California, and when pressed about the details of the deal, Newsom refused to disclose them. Now keep in mind that this is $500 million was just the first of two installments, amounting to a full $1 billion being sent to China to supposedly purchase face masks for Californians. $1 billion for face masks? That's worse than the DOD and the $450 toilet seats. And by the way, those face masks never arrived. Now, the Chinese electric car company in question, BYD, still has the money and is yet to send over a single face mask. Or perhaps the trustee can pull that money back out of that company's account. Now, Newsom himself admitted to it personally during a television interview, though he refused to provide any details about the nature of the agreement that was made with BYD. And this massive transfer of taxpayer money to some obscure Chinese vehicle manufacturer was never voted on by the taxpayers from whom the money was stolen, nor has there been any accountability concerning of how it was used. This is all to keep the Rothschilds afloat. That's all it ever was. The Fed used to get money and then siphon it out of the back door to Rothschilds. Because it's mainly the Rothschilds, although there are black sun elements over in China that are asking for money. Mnuchin did it 2 years ago when Kim sent some money. Mnuchin tried to send it to the Chinese. But I must stress, it's not the Chinese people or the government. Putin did it when Kim sent some of the gold or assets that belong to Russia. He transferred it to China and then asked for more. That'll be a no. And it shows you how much they're struggling. So instead of using taxpayers' money to help Californians, well, there's a novel idea in and of itself. The people's money helping the people. Many of whom currently in California are jobless and barely scraping by. Newsom instead directed it to what is said is communist buddies across the Pacific under the guise of purchasing face masks. So, Californians, what are you going to do with Mr. Newsom? And what this reveals is Newsom, who is a relation of Nancy Pelosi, is in bed with Jared Kushner. Because as this show reported in April, it was Kushner and FEMA were running the exact same program. And at which point did the public see this coup is wider than first thought, and it proves the folly of following party lines. That is an illusion, as this story alone proves it. And the focus on China, Russia, Iran, Cuba, and several other theatres is all a smokescreen. The enemies all along are within. And at some point, Trump is going to have to enforce something, or he will get buried along with them. If, and it's a big if, Trump is for the American people and wants to make America great again, he has to remove Kushner and his sidekicks out of this country once and for all, preferably in jail. If not, Kushner and his Zionist paymasters will bury him. No ifs, no buts. Now, a new report has come out this week claiming that Donald Trump has finally recognised his current track isn't one on a path to victory and that he's changing course. Well, he has to, because his recent course has not been good, in my opinion. And specifically, it is said he is now taking aim at son-in-law Jared Kushner for giving him bad advice and pushing policies that haven't helped the president's re-election chances. Oh my. Wonder where that came from. And an insider told people President Trump has in recent days said that he regrets following some of his son-in-law and senior advisor Jared Kushner's political advice. He doesn't have any political advice. He never did. He's a jackass. And just pull him for one group of people, which is not American. including supporting criminal justice reform, and will stick closer to his own instincts, it is said. And Trump also told people in recent days that he regrets that behind the scenes, one person who spoke with the president interpreted his thinking this way, quote, "No more of Jared's woke shit," unquote. Another said Trump has indicated that following Kushner's advice had harmed him politically. This show's been telling you that for at least 2 years, if not 4. Now, if this is true, it will be welcome news to many Trump supporters, as Kushner has been in their sights for quite a long time. And how much influence he truly has is up for speculation, quite a lot and far too much. But it certainly appears to be substantial, and given that, and given Trump's recent downward trend, it stands to reason that Kushner would start to feel some heat. Heat. He should have been hung upside down on the White House lawn, as Kim told Trump in early April, for blocking all American companies selling PPEs. So the report said what could have prompted this change in the president's outlook towards his most trusted advisor. And the most likely answer is, their statement is the Fox News host Tucker Carlson. And Carlson has repeatedly lambasted Kushner over the last several weeks, while encouraging Trump to get back to following his instincts. And there's also the possibility that Trump has simply had enough of always being put in lose-lose situations by his son-in-law. Of course he is. Spin the wheels. You know, if Trump supports criminal justice reform, he gets criticised and called a racist anyway. If he tries to get a police reform bill passed via the Republican Senate, the media says it's toothless and calls him a racist anyway. If he supports the long-term DACA bill, he's racist for wanting border security with it. It just never stops. So in short, no matter what Trump does, he will never placate a certain segment of the electorate. And perhaps he's waking up to that reality. One hopes. But Trump has also criticised and was apparently upset with how his initial reaction to the rioting and looting was received, and the tweeting whilst taking no real action for weeks had Kushner written all over it. But now it seems in the last week there's been a shift, according to insiders, with Trump touting arrests and telling Bill Barr to start going hard after those who vandalised federal property. And then in a recent tweet, he stopped beating around the bush about the BLM organisation as well, calling their ideology a symbol of hate. Correct. And they're also asking as to why is Trump's campaign advisor Brad Parscale is not capitalising on several of Biden's gaffes and policy positions, while they also failed to establish a general narrative for why Trump deserves another term. There are also rumours of campaign money being misused. Yes, it's probably in the hands of Kushner is why. And states not having organisations set up in them properly. Yeah, because it's being interfered with. So, is the old Trump back, was the question being asked in this report. Well, we can't know for sure, and the White House will deny any internal division on this point. But if this report is true, and it certainly seems to be the case, it could well be the first steps towards Trump reinvigorating his re-election chances. Hopefully, this is correct.